2014. We thank God for bringing us in this new year, and we are continuing our study in the Old Testament. Before we broke, we were in the book of Proverbs, and of course, Solomon, David's son, is the writer of Proverbs. You will recall that Proverbs are short, pithy sayings proven true by experience. In that they are similar to Confucius's sayings. You know, they're short. Some of you, probably when you were small, used to say, Confucius says. And it was a little small saying, but it was concise, many times proven true by experience. That's what the Proverbs are. And if you really want to get a handle on what Solomon is trying to say in the Proverbs, just take a page and divide it in the middle. On the left side, put Lady Wisdom. On the right side, Dame Folly. Because in the book of Proverbs, wisdom and folly are put in the feminine gender. And depending on which one you follow, you're going to have two different directions and two different destinies. I have given you in your handout a sample of what that looks like. So, for instance, on the left side of your paper, you see Lady Wisdom. Proverbs 1:7, under wisdom, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. But under Dame Folly, in that same verse, it says, fools despise wisdom and instruction. On the left side, in chapter 3, verses 5 through 6, very familiar passage of Scripture, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path. On the right side, 3:35 says, shame shall be the legacy of fools. On the left side, 3:7, do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil. 10:23, doing wrong is like a joke to a fool. And you know, some people will harass you, will try to hurt you sometimes, and they think it's funny. You know, they think it's a game. But the Bible says that God is in heaven laughing at fools because he knows that their time is short. And here's the thing. You don't have to worry about getting even with a fool, because vengeance is mine, says the Lord. He says, I will repay. You let people do what they're going to do, and you just do what's right. And God will take care of the rest. In chapter 3, verses 13 through 18, on Lady Wisdom's side, it says, blessed is the one who finds wisdom, and the one who gets understanding. For the gain from her is better than gain from silver, and her profit better than gold. She is more precious than jewels, and nothing you desire can compare with her. Long life is in her right hand. In her left hand are riches and honor. Her ways are the ways of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. She is a tree of life to those who lay hold of her. Those who hold her fast are called blessed. Now notice, wisdom is called her. Hence, the tense, Lady Wisdom. In chapter 12, verse 15, on the side of folly, it says, the way of a fool is right in his own eyes. And there are some people who think they're right in their own eyes. Right? Even when everybody else know they're wrong, they think they're right. Because that's what happens when a person is following foolishness. 10:23, doing wrong is like a joke to a fool, but wisdom is pleasure to a man of understanding. Verse 16 of chapter 14 on folly's side says, but a fool rages and is self-confident. So what I'm trying to get you to see is that there is a comparing and contrasting of wisdom and folly. And as you go through the book of Proverbs, every time you see wisdom mentioned, you write the characteristics of wisdom on one side of your page, and every time you see folly, you write the characteristics of folly on the opposite side. And at the end of the day, when you review what you've done, you'll find that it's better to follow wisdom than it is to follow folly. There's a way that seems right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. Then I said to you all when we first started out in Proverbs that this is a father writing to a son, and yet in the book of Proverbs, women are held in high esteem. Women fare very well in the book of Proverbs. And as a matter of fact, in the last chapter, chapter 31, we get that great passage on a virtuous woman. It's found in chapter 31. Somebody want to start reading real loud for us verse 11 and the following verses.
Garments and sells them, and supplies the merchants with sachets. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom and faithful instructions is on her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idols. Her children arise and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive, and beauty is fleeting. But a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her the reward she has earned, and let her works bring her praise at the city gate.
Thank you. Thank you. So that virtuous woman is talked about in chapter 31, starting at verse 11. And whereas times have changed, so many of the things that you hear her doing, you might not see a woman doing or a wife doing much. So it's the principles that you want to take from it. A virtuous woman is a woman who sees after her household, you know, who is prudent, who is wise. She's not idle. She's always trying to do what is best for her husband and family, and because she lifts her husband up, people talk about him in the city, and raising him up raises her up. So we've got to appreciate the principles, even though things have changed. Now, you would have seen more of these characteristics from a person, a wife, necessarily in a rural environment where people were farming and those kinds of things, where the mother was in the house and did a lot of the things as people were in the field, you know. But we have moved from, you know, an agricultural society. We're in a technological society. And now today many women are working, you know, outside of the house. Some 1, 2, or 3 jobs. So a virtuous woman may look differently than she does in this passage, and yet the same principles should apply. So that's how you read the Bible. Even though things have changed culturally, the principles don't change. It's like right doesn't change. Truth doesn't change. You can drop truth anywhere. You know what you'll find? Truth. You can put right in a corner. Right's going to be the same right over there as it is in another corner, because it doesn't change. You know, it's not situational ethics, you know, where people, you know, deem something right in a moment that is proven wrong at another time. That's not how right operates. Right is right all the time. It's kind of like a diamond. If you drop a diamond in mud, the mud doesn't diminish the diamond. All you got to do is wash the mud off. But the diamond remains a diamond. That's how truth is. So when we read Scripture, even though cultures have changed, times have changed, truth is timeless. And that's what we take from Proverbs 31. Is there any questions about the book of Proverbs then? Again, you want to look at the difference between wisdom and folly. Lady Wisdom on one side, Dame Folly on the other side. If there are no questions, then we'll move to Ecclesiastes. And of course, the book of Ecclesiastes is also written by Solomon. And one of the reasons why Solomon was able to write Ecclesiastes is because Solomon had everything that a man could want. You will recall when we were dealing with the kings that when Solomon came to the kingship, God appeared before Solomon and asked Solomon, what is it that he wanted God to grant him? And he could ask for anything. And Solomon asked for wisdom. Wisdom in how to deal and lead God's people. And God said, since you didn't ask for wealth, since you didn't ask for me to kill your enemies and all these other things, not only am I going to give you wisdom, but I'm going to give you everything else. So Solomon is in the best position of anybody to tell us about life and the pleasures of life, because he had the best of everything. Solomon was a handsome king. He probably looked like his dad David. Solomon reigned over a great, vast kingdom. He reigned during a time of peace. Solomon was a ladies' man. Solomon had 1,000 women. He dressed the best. He had everything going in his favor. And so he could tell us in a unique fashion about life. And so what he says to us is, I want to help you not to make the mistakes in life that so many people make, chasing after things that are of no value. And so we start in chapter 1, and I just want you to hear this great king as he talks to us from the book of Ecclesiastes. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Now when you look at that word vanity, that word means empty. So what he's saying is that everything is empty when it's not lived with God. In other words, a person can live their life and amass great wealth, can have money, can have power, can have all of the things that people think are important in life, but if you live life without the Lord, it's empty and meaningless. By the way, that's the reason why millionaires put revolvers to their head and pull the trigger. Because they find out that money can't buy you peace and happiness. It can buy you material things, but it can't give you the things that are essential to life. So he says, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. What profit has a man from all his labor, in which he toils under the sun? One generation passes away, and another generation comes. But the earth abides forever. The sun also rises, and the sun goes down, and hastens to the place where it arose. The wind goes toward the south, and turns around in the north. The wind whirls about continually, and comes again on its circuit. All the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full. To the place from which the rivers come, there they return again. All things are full of labor. Man cannot express it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. That which has been is what will be. That which is done is what will be done. And there is nothing new under the sun. I want to stop right there and say to us that if there's nothing new under the sun, whatever anybody's trying to do, somebody already tried that. And in this instance, Solomon has tried everything as it relates to enjoyment, pleasure, and he's telling us not from a position of reading a book, but from a position of experience. You know, when people have gone where you want to go, you ought to have ears to listen to what they have to say. Parents, sometimes they need to remind their kids, you know, just ask them a question. Ask them how old are they. And when they tell you how old they are, you can tell them, I've been your age. You've never been mine. And if you listen, I can help you through some obstacles that you're going to encounter. I can help you not to make the mistakes that I've made. Because I've been 19, but you've never been 59. So, you know, experience is a good teacher. And if you can listen, the old folk used to say a hard head make a soft behind. And there are some people you can talk to them till you're blue in the face, and they still go out and make the same mistake that you told them not to, because they don't listen. Let me remind you, you got 7 holes in your head. 2 holes to look out of, 2 holes to hear through, 2 holes to breathe through, and only 1 to talk with. And guess which one runs the most in most people's head? That one, that mouth. The fact that you got 2 eye sockets means you ought to observe twice as much as you talk. And you got 2 ears, you ought to listen twice as much as you talk. Because if you listen, many times you can hear some things that will help you through life. If you observe what's going on around you, you can sidestep pitfalls that others fall in. And then if you don't run your mouth all the time, you won't suffer from what we call foot and mouth disease. You won't have to extract your foot from your mouth, you know. Or as we like to say, check yourself before you wreck yourself. That works. So that which has been is what will be. That which is done is what will be done, and there is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which it may be said, see, this is new? It has already been in ancient times before us. There is no remembrance of former things, nor will there be any remembrance of things that are to come by those who will come after. Now he talks about the grief of wisdom starting in verse 12. I, the preacher, was king over Israel in Jerusalem, and I set my heart to seek and search out by wisdom concerning all that is done under heaven. This burdensome task God has given to the sons of man, by which they may be exercised. I have seen all the works that are done under the sun, and indeed all is vanity and grasping for the wind. In other words, Solomon said, I've tried it. And I found out that without God it's empty, it's meaningless. What is crooked cannot be made straight, and what is lacking cannot be numbered. I commune with my heart, saying, look, I have attained greatness, and have gained more wisdom than all who were before me in Jerusalem. My heart has understood great wisdom and knowledge, and I set my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. That word folly we've already seen, haven't we? We've seen that in the book of Proverbs. Well, this king is saying, I'm the wisest man that has ever lived, and yet I put my heart to even folly. Because I want to find out what was in it that was of substance. And he said, I found out, I perceived that this also is grasping for the wind. You ever tried to grab the wind? You know, it's kind of difficult, isn't it? For in much wisdom is much grief, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. This is something that this society doesn't understand. Our kids are smarter, brighter. Kids today know more than we knew when we came out of high school. They play with technological things that are so advanced. Kids see more murders in one scene of a movie than some people have seen in a lifetime. They know a lot more, but there's a lot more evil too. Because you don't need to know everything. You know, what killed the cat? Curiosity. What got Adam and Eve in trouble in chapter 3 of Genesis? Wanting to be like God. Because Satan told them, the reason he doesn't want you to eat of that fruit is because you will become like him. Adam and Eve looked at creation and looked at everything God had done, and they said, man, that would be great to be like God. And so they ate. And the Bible says their eyes were open. What does that mean? That means that their knowledge increased. But they also fell into sin. Because you don't need to know everything. Aren't you glad that God don't show you everything? If God showed you what you have to go through, if he showed you pain and suffering, storms, obstacles, we'd probably turn around and not go, or try to sidestep the storms that are yet before us. So it's not, God, you don't have to show me everything. Just give me the faith to make one step at a time. Because if you put one foot in front of the other, you're going to ultimately get to your destination. The reason why a lot of people don't attain anything in life is because they don't know how to make a step forward. They're either making steps backwards, living in the past, or some people are stagnant. They're just standing and doing nothing. You know? James Brown said it right. They're like a dull knife. They ain't cutting. They're just talking loud and saying nothing. Oh, I'm eclectic in my thinking. And let me tell you that JB wasn't wrong, because, you know, I went to 1 Corinthians 13, and guess what I saw? Something very similar that Paul says that James Brown said. Because Paul says in that chapter, he says, though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and have not love, I'm as a sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. Even if I had mystery and knew all knowledge, he said, and have not love, I am nothing. It sounds pretty familiar, right? Like a dull knife, ain't cutting, talking loud and saying nothing. And guess what a lot of people are saying today? A bunch of nothing. And there's some people that are wise in their own eyes. They answering questions that nobody's asking. We need to hear from God. We need to have faith to believe God at his word. And whatever God reveals to us, we need to walk in that and then have faith enough to wait for the next step. Because God promised never to leave us or forsake us, that he would be with us every step of the way. His word is a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our pathway. So in much wisdom is much grief, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. That's something, isn't it? You all got any questions about chapter 1? Yep.
Like you were saying, when we come up, our parents try to tell us the right things the right way. Some of us grasped, some of us didn't. Some of us had to go through. Some of it didn't. So we have to not wait till they're gone and say, you know, my daddy told me that I don't went through this. I don't went through the 5 and 6 years. Some people get it. Some people change. Some people don't.
Right.
Some people stay in that same breath, just like you were saying, holding past tense.
Yep.
That was a great experience for me, Lord, that we know that get under your foot and move on, son, because we can't run back to past tense. And what happened, happened. And we move on.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is that my dad told me all this thing. They had to go through where I'm at today. And I said, well, I ain't going through. I'm going to do my thing. And they gave you consequences.
Yeah.
So what you said made a whole bunch of sense. The word of God is so true if you just get into it today. I can just let you know that I love you. I know what you did. I forgave you. You forget it. And move on.
Absolutely. One of the most difficult things for people to do is to forgive themselves. God forgives you, but sometimes people hold themselves hostage because of things that they've done that they don't think that God could ever forgive them for. Problems, downfalls are kind of like scars. You know, I got a scar on my right shin. I can talk about it. I can tell you when it happened, why it happened. You know, I was playing baseball. I'll never forget. I was on third base, and one of my teammates hit a line shot to left field, and the left fielder was coming up throwing. I'm headed home. I'm going to score. The catcher had the base blocked. I got to take him out. I slid, and my shin hit his shin guard and seared the skin right off of that shin. Now that happened many years ago. I got the scar to prove it, but it don't hurt no more. I can talk about it. I have the impression in my shin, but it don't hurt. Anything that keeps hurting you, you haven't healed from it. And if you haven't healed from it, it's still cropping up in your present. It may be under the current. It may be just under the surface, but it only takes a spark to reignite it. Sometimes you get mad and don't even know why you're mad. It's because of unresolved conflict. But you got to learn how to forgive people, and you got to learn how to forgive yourself. If God forgives you, then you ought to be able to forgive yourself and keep on pushing. Because, as I said earlier, time don't wait on anybody. Time keeps on rolling by, and if you're not careful, time will pass you by. I watched a movie, I'm sure many of you all seen, Shawshank Redemption, with Morgan Freeman. Great movie. That movie was made at Mansfield Prison, the old Mansfield Prison right here in Ohio. And there's a saying in that movie that is true. It says you got to either get busy living or get busy dying. And there are some people who've gotten busy dying, and the mortician just waiting for the final result. I don't believe in get busy dying. I'm too busy living. You know, He don't need no dead sacrifices. He had a bunch of them in the Old Testament. God wants us to be living sacrifices, holy, acceptable unto Him, which is our reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye might prove what is that good and perfect will of God. Chapter 2 of Ecclesiastes then talks about the vanity of pleasure. Verse 1, I said in my heart, come now, I will test you with mirth. Therefore enjoy pleasure. But surely this also was what? Yeah, it's empty. Guess what? You can drink yourself into a drunken stupor. But when you wake up from your drunkenness, you're going to find out you're just as empty as you was when you tried to down that liquor. You can put dope in your veins. But after you've had that high, when you come down from cloud 9, you know, they say cloud 9, you can be what you want to be. Cloud 9, you ain't got no responsibility. Oh, I'm going back to old school on you. On cloud 9, every man in his mind is free. But guess what? Newton's theory is still true. Whatever goes up must come down. And when you come down, the problems that you try to get away from, they've gotten worse. And now you're in a worse position to handle the difficulties that you was trying to get away from. I don't care what you pursue. If you pursue it without God, you're going to find out that it is meaningless and empty. Marvin Gaye tried to find pleasure and healing in sex. Most of his songs were about sex and healing. Hence, sexual healing. Right? Let's get it on. Right? You listen to his songs. Very sensual singer. Very, very good singer, by the way. And Marvin Gaye, you know, he finally asked the question, what's going on? Because Marvin Gaye found out that after you've had all the women that you think you want, that there is still an emptiness inside that sex cannot fulfill. Solomon is telling us that he put his mind to pleasure, and he found out that everything that he did was meaningless. Verse 3, I searched in my heart how to gratify my flesh with wine, while guiding my heart with wisdom, and how to lay hold on folly, till I might see what was good for the sons of men to do under heaven all the days of their lives. I made my works great. I built myself houses and planted my vineyards. I made myself gardens and orchards, and I planted all kinds of fruit trees in them. I made myself water pools from which to water the growing trees of the grove. I acquired male and female servants and had servants born in my house. Yes, I had greater possessions and herds and flocks than all who were in Jerusalem before me. I also gathered for myself silver and gold and the special treasures of kings and of the provinces. I acquired male and female singers, the delights of the sons of men, and musical instruments of all. Solomon said, I could call in Luther and have him sing to me, and Luther would sing, a house is not a home unless you got somebody to live with you. A chair is not a chair. I wish I had somebody up in here. Solomon said, I experienced the best of everything. Singers, male and female, the delights of sons of men, and musical instruments of all kinds. So I became great and excelled more than all who were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me. Whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I did not withhold my heart from any pleasure. You know what that tells me? He got high too. We call it dope. I don't know what he called it, but he was smoking something. But he said, you know, I put my heart to find pleasure. For my heart rejoiced in all my labor, and this was my reward from all my labor. Then I looked on all the works that my hands had done, and on the labor in which I had toiled. And indeed all was what? Vanity, empty, and grasping for the wind. There was no profit under the sun. This, starting at verse 12, is the end of the wise and the fool. Then I turned myself to consider wisdom and madness and folly. For what can the man do who succeeds the king? Only what he has already done. Then I saw that wisdom excels folly. Uh-oh. That gives us a hint back to Proverbs, right? Wisdom excels folly, as light excels darkness. The wise man's eyes are in his head, but the fool walks in darkness. Yet I myself perceive that the same event happens to them all. So I said in my heart, as it happens to the fool, it also happens to me. And why was I then more wise? Then I said in my heart, this is also vanity. For there is no more remembrance of the wise than the fool forever. Since all that now is will be forgotten in the days to come. And how does a wise man die? As a fool. What he's saying is, everybody die the same. Everybody go to the grave. It don't matter whether you was wise or foolish, rich or poor, black or white, red or yellow. It don't matter. We all go to the same place. And if you go and visit the cemetery, you know what you're going to find? Those people who've had headstones, they got the same thing. They got a sunrise and a sunset and a dash in between. And 100 years from now, nobody will remember that you've been through here. Because everybody in 100 years will be gone. You know what happens to graveyards after they've been Everybody gone that knew you? Sometimes they dig them up and put housing complexes on them. See? Absolutely. Verse 17, therefore I hated life because the work that was done under the sun was distressing to me. For all is vanity and grasping for the wind. Then I hated all my labor in which I had toiled under the sun, because I must leave it to the man who will come after me. And who knows whether he will be wise or a fool? Yet he will rule over all my labor in which I toil, and in which I have shown myself wise under the sun. This is also vanity. Let me just stop right there and tell you what he said. He said, you can leave money behind for people, and who knows how they gonna blow it. What it took you a lifetime to amass, a fool can spend it in a day. He said, I found out that was even empty, because you work all your life trying to gain something, and then and let me say to you, ain't no U-Hauls going to the cemetery. Naked you came in this world, and naked you shall return. You're not taking anything out of here. And that should let us know that whatever we got is on loan. God just blessing you to use it for a season. But one day our season is going to be up. You know, our lives are like the trees, right? In springtime, the trees' leaves start getting green, right? And in the summertime, thank God for those leaves, because when they get hot and the wind blows through them trees, they wave at you and fan you so you can get cool. I wish I had somebody up in here. In the fall, the leaves change and they turn colored, beautiful. As a matter of fact, my favorite time of the year is fall, when the leaves change to orange and red and gold and purple and all these beautiful colors. And if you go south on 77, I'm telling you, you will see something that is absolutely spectacular. But winter is here, and the leaves are all off the tree. And the trees look bald-headed, right? But guess what? In a couple more months, the cycle will happen again. And what don't have nothing on it right now will have green leaves on it, and the cycle will continue. That's how life is. What season are you in? Are you in the spring, summer, fall, or winter? And guess what? Nobody can answer that. Because if you're 60 and you got 30 more years to live, you're pretty young. But if you're 20 and got but 2 more years to live, you're pretty old. Think about it. For what is your life? It's even a vapor that appears for a little time and then vanishes away. Verse 20, therefore I turned my heart and despaired of all labor in which I had toiled under the sun. For there is a man whose labor is with wisdom, knowledge, and skill. Yet he must leave his heritage to a man who has not labored for it. This also is vanity and of a great evil. For what has man for all his labor, and for the striving of his heart, with which he has toiled under the sun? For all his days are sorrowful, and his work burdensome. Even in the night his heart takes no rest. This also is vanity. Nothing is better for a man than that he should eat and drink and that his soul should enjoy good in his labor. This also I saw was from the hand of God. For who can eat or who can have enjoyment more than I? For God gives wisdom and knowledge and joy to a man who is good in his sight. But to the sinner he gives the work of gathering and collecting, that he may give to him who is good before God. This also is vanity and grasping for the wind. Notice that everything that Solomon says, he ends with, is empty and is like grasping for the wind. You can keep reaching for it, and when you come back, you ain't got nothing. That's how people live their life, many of them. You know, grasping for things. If I could just have this, if I could just have that. And when they get it, they want more. People with money want more money. Rich people, they don't never get enough money. Always want more. Some people got so much money they couldn't even spend it in a lifetime. They're still trying to get more. But I don't care how rich you are. When death come knocking on your door, you got to leave all them riches behind. That too is vanity. Empty. Right? So Solomon is talking to us. He who hath an ear, let him hear. You know, don't play. Paul says in 1 Corinthians 13, he says, when I was a child, I spoke as a child. I thought as a child. I understood as a child. When I became a man, I put away childish things. You know, have you put your toys up? You know what you tell your kids when the toys are all spewed out on the floor and it's time to go to bed? What do you tell them? Go and pick them toys up and put them back in that box. Well, guess what? There comes a time in life when you ought to put your toys up. Stop playing. Because life is serious. And if you keep playing with life, life will play with you. Be like that rabbit that was racing that turtle. The rabbit thought he was fast. Oh, rabbit was, man, when that race started, all the animals in the forest put their money on the rabbit. Well, they knew the rabbit was fast. They looked at the turtle. How in the world he gonna win? He could carry his house on his back everywhere he go. And the race started. Oh, can you see the rabbit? Oh man, he was running. He profiling and going on, running around the turtle, messing with him, you know, and just playing. Just ran out of gas. And he went on the side of the road, took a snooze. Yeah, you know, and the animals, you know, it was looking at this thing, you know, got their money down on the rabbit, and he sleep. Turtle just kept on moving. And he wasn't as speedy as the rabbit, but he ran with the speed God gave him. Oh, I wish I had somebody in here. You may not have the speed somebody else got, but God has given you something. Move with that. And man, when the rabbit finally woke up, the turtle was just about to break the finish line. And them animals looking at him, one of the animals must have said, the race is not given to the swift nor to the strong, but to the one that can endure to the end. Have mercy, Lord. This is an endurance race. You can jump off fast if you want to. You be done run out of gas. And a lot of people jump out and don't have what it takes to finish. But if you just do what God told you to do, God will put strength in every stride that you make. Ooh. And when you run your race, you won't run it in vain. Y'all know we used to sing a song like that, didn't we? Huh? Lord, hold my hand while I run this race, for I don't want to run this race in vain. Y'all remember that? See, y'all don't sing them songs no more, because, you know, they ain't popular with this young crowd, you know. They say, oh, that's an old school stuff. And I'm going to tell y'all something. The old school work. You know, I used to come into church, man, them old warriors in it. Lord, hold my hand while I run this race. Oh, Lord, hold my hand while I run this race. Lord, hold my hand while I run this race, for I don't want to run this race in vain. Good God, I just said, man, I would look like I did in a hurry. Get up in there. I just wanted to be there. Oh, my goodness.